I don't know. I don't really know where to start, but I just know that this week in music has been, or in hip hop,
In hip
has
hop
been,
and R&B in a sense. I think in the whole ramification of our culture, right, within hip hop has been kind of turned upside down. I mean, you have the heavyweights are going at it.
yeah, and that is so influential to the course of life or the culture. Like it really drives culture. Like
Mhm.
whatever happens in hip hop, I don't know why our celebrities or our musicians are on a cat, on a what is idolized like this.
Mhm.
It's really mind blowing to me.
A lot of times is because they are actually doing stuff in within their talents that a lot of people wish they had the courage to do, right?
Mm.
And so a lot of times I've always looked at idolization as more emulation, and then not just the emulation part of it is that it's more of a glorification of I wish I was that person. And so you're
Mm.
kind of drawn into, okay, what is this person wearing, what is this person speaking, how are they walking, it's just
And that's coveting and that's sinful.
affect those things so much. And the relevancy of it is that hip hop has such a stronghold on the world, and how the world revolves around hip hop. I mean, the majority of commercials hip hop related. The majority of how clothing brands are distributed and given to us hip hop related. Like it's a very synonymous genre that draws everybody around it and who's involved in it. And there's major players in the game. I think that there's a hierarchy with the generational stuff. Like our generational stuff is, people like Jay Z, Nas. Even though Biggie and Pac are dead, like they still are synonymous with the culture and the standard at which, if you want to like label it gatekeeping, like they are the standard. The '90s era is the standard. Like I always have this conversation with my boys about it. It's like I always look at Griselda now, like with Conway and West Side Gun and Benny the Butcher, as very much a new age Wu Tang.
Hmm. I was
A
gonna
new
ask that.
age, and like I can draw those comparisons with the way they flow, the way that they are very family kind of oriented. Everybody's was a group, and then they
A
did.
collective.
So like the blueprint for these guys has been mapped out, and a lot of the smarter players in the new age of hip hop have very much capitalized on it. And and like I said, you go on this hierarchy of things, and then you have your, I don't want to say your medium range guys, but you have your guys from an era of like Little Wayne's and the Fabulouses of the world and those types of artists too, who are now getting up in age, but they ran supreme through the early 2000s to mid 2000s. And
Yeah,
so
they
there's,
set a precedent for them for, pioneered their lane. I can
mhm.
see that. I can see that.
One thing that I never hear, or I shouldn't say hear, but we'll hear in on other podcasts like Maury and Rao, or I think hopefully I didn't mess their names up, but Joe Budden, especially academics. I don't watch a lot of the academics, and I think that other brother that,
That's that younger generation. I feel like Kai Cenat and Ack are
yeah,
academics. That's that younger generation, but they, I mean, I think it's like a love to hate relationship because people always are clowning academics.
and
But
for me, like I don't get my information from him because he's always kind of come off clownish, right? Like
yeah,
so it's like I don't like
they,
people, like I respect Joe Budden because he doesn't flip flop, right? I respect Gilly and Wallow because they don't flip flop. They are who they are, and they're more my age and what we came up with. Joe Budden was in the height of hip hop.
yes. And a
Like,
lot of those guys, they seem like they have more authenticity. They're OGs, so they've been around, they have wisdom. But yeah, like in
kind of the way
comparison,
we get our news sources, right? When we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, like what is, like even last week in the cloud seeding stuff, like how do we get our news? Like how do you personally get your news? How do I get my news? And how do the masses? Like everybody
there's,
is have a different view plan of how they want to obtain
yeah,
information.
like I could not get my sole information from academics, no jumper, or who's the Kai Cenat, just because they're younger, but they are what's the word, resonating with the younger
Yeah,
generation.
because
But
they are.
I just think the younger generation, they don't understand. Like they have no clue what's happening in life yet, and so they think this is cool.
I don't want to say it in that way, right? Like, because I have to disagree with that part. I think what happens is that we grew up in the heightened era of hip hop, so we understand the elements of the genre, right? And the genre has always been about who has the biggest chain. That's a big part of it. Your chain,
80s, the big old
right? Like I'm gonna put it away, but it's because mine ain't big. But it's things like that, like who is the top dog within the neighborhood. This is how the five boroughs became what they were with hip hop, and then as it spread to different parts of the country. There's a great Netflix documentary about that, and I think it's on Prime or Netflix, but it kind of goes into all of that. Where if you do understand I am the number one MC, so I will face another number one MC. So it's, hip hop is very rooted in, it's a sport, it's a competitive sport. Lyricism, DJing, breakdancing, those are all competition type forms of of hip hop. Clothing then became that in the late 90s with Fat Farm, Fubu, Sean John, Rockaware. Like all of these things are always competitive. So like I think the newer generation doesn't understand the competitive aspect of hip hop and
and it's just
the
watered
way that
down. It's
beefs have
watered
happened.
down though. As things
It
have
is.
evolved, this generation, I'm sorry, it's watered down. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't I think about it. After J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake, what would be the next three? NLE Choppa? I
No,
mean, Juice
I don't
World.
even know. But see, I'm not even utilizing any of these newer artists. Like, if it's up to me, like a newer artist that I would love to hear from, and he's not even in this kind of lane, is like a
Right.
Don Kennedy, a Larry June. Those types of artists aren't battle rappers, like or rappers that have solidified themselves as being lyrically genius. Like Larry June just rides a beat really well. It's not taking away from anything he does. I
It's a
love
vibe. It's a
it. Is
vibe.
so you have vibe rappers, you have guys that are lyricistically driven to give the masses what old
And
hip hop wants.
and after this generation, there is no lyricist generation on the mainstream.
But a lot of our lyricists too within this, and what the downfall has been the violence part
Yeah.
and bringing the
And the
streets to
substance
hip
abuse.
hop. And we didn't do a good job, obviously, in the '90s with Pac and Biggie and those types of Big L. Like, and then you take, even, I don't like to say his name anymore because it's kind of like the taboo name with R. Kelly, is like the Diddy's. Like you're seeing empires crumble. You're seeing people
Based on a lifestyle.
being exposed for now manipulating that lifestyle or glorifying this lifestyle, and then they ended up being entrenched and swallowed up in that lifestyle. So there's so many different layers in this onion of hip hop that are hard to sometimes peel back. And when I see and hear responses or jabs or subliminals, like hip hop is super sensationalized with subliminal shots, subliminal advertisements, subliminal shots. I'm going to tease you here. I'm going to drop this mixtape, but then I'm going to, like Jay-Z was very, in 50 Cent were very responsible. T.I., DJ Drama, they were very responsible, Lil Wayne, for teasing us with these dope ass mixtapes. And it's like, okay, I want the album. Like I've said, like Fabulous, I can listen to just his mixtapes and not any studio album ever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I listened to all three soul tapes before I listened to his new album. And I'm never intrigued to listen to the album. I love the mixtape Fab because the mixtape Fab is fucking dope. Like
Right.
it's that's what I'm more predicated to, but it's a personal preference, right?
Right.
And so when you're seeing the top three, right? So let's take the top three, like we talked about our three, and let's really dive into that. Is that, and this is something I thought about earlier, before pre-production of the show, was I think J. Cole's artistry is very slept on. I think he's a very brilliant producer and a brilliant writer, and he's brilliant in his delivery of storytelling. He's more of, you got to remember, Nas is one of, and Jay-Z are his mentors. So he is a really good storyteller and can probably create an album that tells a story of whatever period of time of life he has. Kendrick is kind of the same, not necessarily beat driven, but he is a lyricist. So out of the three,
Who was
I
his
would
mentors? Who was his?
say 50 Cent,
Mm,
Eminem, TDE, J Rock. I mean, when you really look and delve into how he has become, and in his crew, like the old crew, because I know he's not on TDE anymore, but they have come to his defense on Twitter and on social media. And they're like, that's our dude. That's our,
yeah, and they seem like family,
they are
and
family. And the only
yeah,
reason why I feel like they split was because Kendrick doesn't like being conformed to deadlines. So when you're running a business, there's deadlines that you have to meet. I have to do it in my business. So if I have a roster due, or if I have admin stuff, insurance, like tournament selections, I have deadlines. So artists don't operate off of deadlines. So you got to also remember that. Like, this is an artist street. It's an art to rap and to DJ and to dance
yeah.
and choreograph. And
And
they're
Kendrick just pops out whenever he wants,
mhm.
you
So he's
know.
kind of free spirit, and the one guy out of the three that is very conformed to what he's doing. And you got to remember, there's a line that says, your favorite hip hop guy is your favorite actor, and he's been bred for this. That's why I sent you that 9-year-old Drake clip, and it's like
Oh
he's rapping,
yeah,
singing.
yeah.
He's
And look
been
at his mentors
and he's been groomed to be
to
this.
be that superstar, that mega star.
And so, like, there's a place for him to be the mega star, right? And then from an artistry standpoint, you have a guy like Kendrick who probably feels like, hey man, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I know you may think you're the star, but like, I'm the more
You,
gifted lyricist. And so,
yeah. And he's more grounded in culture.
mhm,
Like, I think he just doesn't, I think why do you think he's doing this? Like, why do you think he engaged in this beef? Why did he finally take the bait?
or
Kendrick, Kendrick.
because Drake for the last 10 plus years has been subliminally coming at all of them, the entire industry he comes after.
Mhm.
So if you ever break, when Drake really does a hip hop song, like I just take the last album for All the Dogs, okay? When he released that six song EP, you got to really listen to all six. So something happened
Yeah.
on, my brother, right? Something happened with somebody in his camp. Something happened. You listen to the song with J. Cole, third person shooter or first person shooter. There's subs there to Kendrick, because all Cole was doing was, I think, just kind of acknowledging that we are the big three. Like, we are who the culture is, and we drive the culture when we do drop, which is the case because when Cole dropped, I might delete later. The
Mhm.
internet's crazy. Drake dropped that six-song EP. Internet went nuts. Like, everybody's like, "Fuck the regular album. I'm trying to listen to these six songs. This is the Drake we want."
Yeah. Yeah,
Real hip
exactly. The
hop fans are like,
rappy Drake, not the
yeah,
melodies Drake. The
yeah,
men wanted the lyrics. Yeah.
yeah, but people don't even understand. For All the Dogs is actually a kind of a simile to women. So it's about women, and how we treat them kind of like dogs, in i.e. terms bitches. So this is for all the bitches. That's why it's for all the dogs. It's not all my partners. So you have a double entendre with just your album title. So it's going to force you as a consumer, myself included and you included, male, female, you're going to listen to it because there's going to be some R&B tracks on there. I'm going to listen to it because I want to hear the hip hop in it, and it's not to say, because I know you're a big hip hop head, but I'm just giving more male female perspective on how strategic all of this is. And so, like, I'm going to get to the big part right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is all a product and a design from the industry to give these artists, because they're all actually under either one or two labels. That's it. Out of
Mm-hmm.
the There's two labels that rule everything right now. And all these artists are signed to either two. So how do you drive up revenue? How do you drive up streaming? when a lot of these guys aren't getting money and revenue from the streaming. Oh, that's right, go on tour. Drake did 2 to 3 tours this year, if I'm not mistaken, just
Oh
in
yeah.
2024 already,
Yeah, he
right?
did. Yep.
We got to remember, where are they getting the money? Where are they doing things? How are they doing things? And we're gullible as consumers. Because remember, we're consumers when we're listening and buying and streaming and paying a monthly subscription. How do you get the consumer to bait? Oh, that's right, conflict. That's right, drama. We're prone as a human race to conflict, chaos, and
Yeah.
drama.
Yep. It engages people.
Mhm. So whether this is reality for them, I can't speak to that because I'm not them and I'm not in their camps. But I just think it got to a head to where they all three basically said, and even people that have chimed in, that have coming from the woodworks, it feels like. And I always feel bad for Big Sean because I feel like he always puts out Big Sean and Wale are like 1 and 2 to me on that. I've
Mm-hmm.
always forgotten about how gifted they are as lyricists. They
Mm-hmm.
can just never find their lane to stay mainstream, right? They're backpack guys.
Yeah.
Then just even yesterday, my hip hop text thread with Cam and Leo, we know the origins of Drake. The origins of Drake, just like Kanye, his origins were with Dilated Peoples, John Legend, um, Consequence, who was a former Tribe Called Quest member and still is, right? Native Tongues. These are his mentors. Jay-Z is a mentor. Freeway, Benny Siegel, Memphis Bleak, the Young Guns, all these people that have
Super lyrical.
a level, that did it at a very high level,
Mm-hmm.
that did it at a high level, that are now giving him an opportunity to kind of cosplay. And Drake is the same way. Drake came up through mixtape culture with groups like Little Brother. Now, they have a whole nother Twitter thing about Little Brother and Fontaine and Big Pooh and that whole Justice League thing. And that's one of my favorite groups in hip hop ever.
I know. I was like, dang. I wait, you said Drake was a part of Little Brother, or he was did some collabs
Did
with
a
them?
lot of music with them on his first
Dang.
2 mixtapes. Fontaine,
Really?
Fontaine was Drake before Drake was Drake. Singing,
Mm-hmm.
hip hop, lyricism, charisma, like very good voice. Like Fontaine's one of my favorite rappers who never gets talked about, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some guys live the underground life, some guys live the starstruck life. But if you're a true hip hop head, you're gonna know the origins of how somebody has kind of
Their
came.
story.
And so what Drake did originally, if you go back, and this is just for anybody watching this, like go back and find his first mixtape, Comeback Season,
Mm-hmm.
and then go find Get Rich or Die. I don't remember what it was. He looks like it's a picture of Drake, and it's like the Biggie
Oh,
picture,
really? Nice.
Drake picture. And those 2 mixtapes alone were very backpack, underground, hip hop type style beats,
Mm-hmm.
mixed in with guys like Little Brother and more backpacky type flow. And he was really showing you he had talent. And so, like,
And that's not a question. Like people can't question Drake on that, I don't think.
no, but you also got to remember too is that people always are trying to find their lane too. So hip
He
hop, I've always,
started there.
yeah, I feel like hip hop is always kind of this borrowed culture, right? Like we borrow and you can say it's a steal, but borrow, like they borrow different formats of what they feel like might be successful if they do it too. So it's just like auto tune. It worked for Roger and Zapp. Then all of a sudden, Yeezy and these guys bring it back. So we had the
Mm-hmm.
auto tune era. It's just things that people feel like they can take and refine and make it their own. It's the same way that Euphoria starts with the Al Green "Turn Off the Lights" beat. Like if that whole diss was just in that beat, I'd probably be super engaged. But I have to listen, whether I like the beat or not. I have to listen to Kendrick's lyricism on it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's not known for having these slapped ass beats and making you dance
Yeah.
club. And the one song that always gets me hyped is like "All Right," right? Like, and that's produced by who? Pharrell Williams and the Neptunes. The
Mm-hmm.
hook, Pharrell Williams and the Neptunes. So in the 2000s, who ruled radio? Who ruled the music world? Pharrell Williams did.
Right,
So
right.
I think that there's a lot of side picking right now, which it should be in a sense. It's like who's
But
driven.
why? I can't pick sides.
They don't know how to be united on a front because hip hop is based and rooted in ego. So again, we go back to our first ever episode about Jimmy Iovine, and when Jimmy Iovine is saying hip hop ego is not the amigo,
Hmm.
hip hop is driven on ego. So this is what we get. I just don't want it to be malicious or violent, right? Like I don't
Right,
want
and
it.
I'm glad it hasn't gotten there. But I feel like social media is trying to take it there.
They
But
can't. Different media outlets will try to always
you know what
glorify.
I mean? Yeah, but I think they are
I
keeping
think
it.
these three are smarter than that, and kind of why J. Cole bowed out because I think he realized, okay, look, I know who I am. I'm not trying to fuck up my money because he's the CEO of Dreamville, right? And he's
Right.
got his own label and things that can fuck that up for other
So you think that's
artists.
why
And he's
he backed out? You think he wouldn't have been able to compete at this level? Do people, is that what people are saying?
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think the magnitude at which these two levels of superstardom, he's the third one in the superstardom. This is a 1A, 1B type battle. And this,
Yeah, okay, interesting. Because I'm
well,
not too
my
familiar
take,
with J. Cole.
right? That's just my take. I listen to J. Cole to be in a vibe. And J. Cole's music resonates with a lot of pain and a lot of overcoming triumph, right? And overcoming obstacles. And
But he doesn't have great songs.
some that people really like. I like if you take, every hip hop artist has an A and a B side of their tracks. I'm a Jay-Z fan of the entire catalog. There's a few things that I don't listen to Sunshine. I don't listen to Heart of the City. But if you do listen to Heart of the City, there's some really good lyricism in there. But I'm more of a B-side kind of hip
Yeah,
hop.
me too.
So who's going to have the best B-sides? I think Drake and Kendrick, but out of the three, have better B-sides because when Drake raps on some shit, it's very interesting. When Kendrick
Yeah,
is in his bag, it's very interesting. I think Cole
interesting.
has those, but I've always looked at Cole kind of like a little bit grade tier better than what Eminem is. I've always felt like Eminem's great on features, and I can't listen to an entire album.
Yeah, his first and second album was good, but after that, he lost me. You know?
It's hard because like you look at an artist, nobody really talks about it enough is like 50 Cent, right? Like 50 Cent came in fucking guns blazing. Like he was really ready to murk Ja Rule and the things. And then I think I sent it to you last night with the Irv Gotti thing when Irv Gotti was like, hey, we're gonna sign Nas. And then where his relationship with Jay-Z and Rockefeller, and they were synonymous on Def Jam. Murder
Mm.
and Rockefeller, they traveled toward their friends, their close friends, their business associates. They get money together. They have a relationship, a friendship, and that friendship became nullified and bad because they were in talks to signing Nas because he was a free agent. Now, if you ever go back and listen to Kanye's, is it Late Registration? What was the first? Yeah, Late Registration is the second album,
College
and
dropout? Oh.
no, it's Late Registration. It's the second album. It's a sophomore album, which most sophomore albums flop. So go back and listen to the song with him and Nas. And Nas on that album, and this is at a time where internet was kind of buzzing, like Hip Hop DX and Double XL, Source. They all had their internet people, right? And you kind of got news faster than what you used to. When he dropped that, he has a line that says, "I'm a free agent now. Maybe I might go to good music and be the next Motown." It's
Hmm.
like, and then what happens? Oh, he signs with Kanye, makes a few albums with him. So it's like these types of things. And when Irv Gotti was talking about when they were in the beef with Jay-Z and Nas, signing Nas, that ended the relationship or the friendship with Jay-Z. And then 6 months later, Jay-Z wound up going on tour with G Unit and 50. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a shoe together. Both had shoes. They had the G Unit sneaker and you had the S dots, right? And Irv Gotti's response or first thing to that when Jay Z had found out and his camp found out he was trying to sign Nas, he was like, "It's good business if I sign him." So Jay-Z came back after the tour and all the money made, and this was, he dropped that the mixtape before the Black album. So this is all a prelude to his like final album, remember? Because it was supposed to be his last studio album was the Black album. It was supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
But that mixtape is fire, right? That tour. I went to the tour in LA and here in Sacramento. And it's like we were so entrenched in that, right? Like we were so consumed with this. Like, how the fuck are G Unit and Rockefeller merged when if you know the backstory, you know that Irv and Murder Inc. and Rockefeller are very synonymous with each other because they're label mates on Def Jam. Like this is a slap in the face, and Jay-Z turns around and says, hey, it was good business. What are you gonna do about it?
Exactly. And that's, I think, what people don't understand is that this industry, like a lot of us, the fans, it's all about culture and you hope it's authentic because hip hop came out as from an authentic place. But it's business. It's mostly business. I don't think people really understand that, you know? And
He wants attention.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think people just and because that's the thing that I'm having a hard time with is just reading all these the dialogue and what people are saying and people just don't have all the information. And
Yeah,
so
like you have to be rooted in this. Like, and for me, it moves the needle because I'm an enthusiast of hip hop. So like I
right.
enjoy knowing the ins and outs. I enjoy knowing the backstories, and I have the backstories, and it's just something that I've always been.
And you
Like
need that full picture. People don't have that full picture in
they
this
don't.
dialogue. So that's
But
why it's such a
title,
surface, it's just a surface battle. Like a lot of the, unless you are tapped into, I guess the different gatekeepers that we talked about.
mhm.
But it's just this conversation or this whole rap battle and the reason why people think that Kendrick's winning or if Drake's winning, it's not a full conversation.
Yeah. Well, because it's going to be opinionated, right? It's not rooted in facts, and that's how
Yeah.
hip hop competition is. It's like a lot of people will side with Jay Z on, you know, he had two diss songs. Nas only put out one, and Ether probably one. When it drops, it's like fuck Jay Z, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
poof.
I mean, I don't even remember Jay-Z's diss record. So that's how impactful I feel like Ether was.
Mm-hmm. And Jay Z had two of them, so he also had
Which
Blueprint.
ones did he have?
Oh, what is the
Do you
first
remember?
one?
Exactly. You know?
You gotta look it up because I'm
And
so.
so like with this current rap battle, like the song, because like who do you have in the lead at this point? Do you think Kendrick's in the lead or do you think Drake is in the lead? Because I don't know. For me, it's
So
pretty
it was
even.
Takeover, and I'm sorry, I should have known that. So the first one was Takeover.
Oh, Takeover. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I do remember. That was a big record. That was a big record.
you got to understand, like overall, because the album dropped on September 11th, 2001.
Mm,
Like that shit was that's
big.
probably one of the all-time battles ever, right? Because of how classic the Blueprint is. Like every song on the Blueprint knocks, even the hidden tracks, a lyrical exercise, and the Girls remix by Kanye. Like those are very synonymous that are played still in clubs, are still synonymous with oh shit, my head's gonna nod, that kind of stuff. But Ether in its own right, just in the song alone, it's like, damn, dude, you never really heard other than Pac, somebody coming at somebody so lyrically, so hard, so like personally at a guy. But then, Jay-Z also had two songs, right? He had Takeover and Blueprint 2 on the next album. He shot back again. So it's like some people can say Jay-Z's 2-0 or 1-1, or I just think Nas did win that battle between the two songs, right? But think about how business works. Kanye produced Takeover.
Mm-hmm.
10 years later, who did Kanye sign to Good Music?
Mm.
So at the end of the day, like if you really strategically break it down, this shit's about money and ego. So like you can't be too like entrenched personally with what's being said. Like take it for what it said, know why it's being said, know why certain jabs and subliminals have been made by these artists because that's just what they've always done. They have a Jay-Z's blueprint was a blueprint to how he's now a billionaire. Go back and listen to the record. Go back and listen to the whole album. Every track. That dude has said it since 1995. I'm going to take over this shit. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it.
That's pretty major.
And I've done it. Right. And I think that there's guys like Drake who have taken that, and because an evolution of just human beings, right? You're going to take it and perfect it. Some guys couldn't take it and perfect it. Some guys do know their lane. Some guys like Lil Wayne should probably be the best lyricist hip hop artist of this generation of the last 20 plus years.
Right, right. Quick
But he's only
question.
talking about that but through hip hop enthusiasts though.
Right, right. Now, you know how like those rap battles that are pretty popular,
Mm-hmm.
the different like the indie artist rap battles. Did
Mm-hmm.
that come after the Jay-Z and Nas rap
Mm-mm.
battle? Or has that been
This is
way
all
before that?
part of the culture. The Bridge is Over is a diss track. KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions versus Melly Mel and all these other guys. Like this goes back to the late 70s,
Right,
early
right. No,
80s.
no, there's always been diss tracks, but I'm saying like the rap battles. Like, you know how there's like guys who are legendary rap battlers, like on that
Yeah, remember,
underground
this is
scene?
the Hip Hop Olympics, right? This is where Eminem was founded. He was found at the Hip Hop Olympics, and his demo got sent to Dr. Dre and handed over to him because of what he was doing on these rap battles. 106 in Park, whether anybody wants to agree or disagree with it or not, you can't deny the fact that when they had Freestyle Fridays, that shit set a lot of people's careers into another stratosphere.
True,
Let's take
true.
an Asian artist like Jin, right? Like he goes from being a hip hop 106 in Park battle rapper to putting out two albums on Rough Rider and then also in two different Fast and Furious movies.
Hmm.
Pretty solid for a guy that was just on there for a 3 minute, 3.5 minute verse.
Hmm. But like if we're talking about money, I was just trying to connect. Like, did the rap battle world come out of those earlier rap beefs? Because I know like Big Daddy Kane and Rakim had beef or whatever. And that just shows how profitable it is to have
Oh,
these rap battles.
fuck
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And it's what negativity draws consumerism. You just got to
And
look
the
at
engagement. Yeah.
and what is the way that we gauge success nowadays on social media platforms, your followers, your impressions, your looks, your clicks. We are talking about a pre-production. If this podcast is up 380% of clicks, 380 clicks, like you're successful. Like you can look at it as success, and then how do we get to another 380? Like if you
Hmm.
300% increase in your business, I mean, you're doing good business, right? And you just have to figure out a way to consistently maintain that business. And every so often, that this is going to happen. Dudes are not
Right.
going to get along, especially if they're egotistically driven based on how much they have. And like I said, hip hop in its core roots has always been about the fur coat, the chain, who's flyest, who's got the dopest whip. Just go back and watch the movie Paid in Full. Go back and watch any type style of hip hop
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
Any of these synonymous hip hop cultural movies in cinema and how they're played out has always been about what? Ego.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what feeds that. So
But if we're talking about this current rap battle,
mhm.
Kendrick Lamar is kind of saying that that stuff is, just
Oh,
materialistic,
it is because he's
and
not,
it doesn't matter.
but he's never been that artist. And I go back to his one of his BET awards, the hip hop BET awards cipher, right? Like that cipher verse is legendary. And in that verse, he threw shit subs at Drake in at least 5 to 10 bars. Subs. And everybody knew who the fuck he was talking about, Stace. Like everybody knew. They're like, damn, like, is Drake gonna go do this shit now on a cipher? Like, I think Drake's always felt like he's bigger than that within the culture because he's a media crossover pop star. So you have the pop star, And this is why they, he's attacking him on the Michael Jackson comments. Like, I know that he's striving to do what Jay-Z has done and Taylor Swift has done, and
Right.
be anonymous on the Billboard charts. And Kendrick's like,
So but the thing is, like, for me, this rap battle is going to tell us who is the most, like, representative of hip hop. Because to me, Drake kind of represents more of the mainstream hip hop that we've known that has had major success. But Kendrick Lamar, he's coming from a more, I think, more spiritual, more grounded, more conscious, aware type
mhm.
person. So if he wins this battle, like that's going to be a really
Remember,
interesting.
we gotta say winning in more of a consumer popularity contest, right? It's like we're voting for prom king. That's how these battles are determined and judged, right? Like who is the more popular opinion? Because there's Drake fans that won't have the same ear when they're listening to Kendrick, and
Yeah.
there's Kendrick fans that don't like Drake because of the crossover stuff that he does do. So yeah,
Right. And he
that,
might be the actual face of how hip hop has evolved and progressed into. Drake is the
there's
epitome of
more.
that.
Yeah,
He's
there's
that
more.
he's that business side, he's the money, he's the ego, he's everything that hip hop has evolved into. And if Kendrick comes out victorious, I can see him possibly pivoting.
Who gets play, right? When you listen to a Pandora or a Shade 45, there are certain pockets on the recording list at Shade 45 that give you your grimy ass hip hop, right? Or Who Kid on Sundays, or I'm sorry, Saturdays when he drops his stuff. But then the majority of what you're listening to, if you're just listening to it, is more in alignment of what Drake's doing. More artists are forming who they are based on what he's been doing, as opposed to what the route J. Cole and maybe Kendrick do.
Right. I
So
agree with that.
it's a popularity contest that I feel like Kendrick and Cole won't win, but lyrically are better in a lot of senses. And again, I've said it last time, right? I said Kendrick is my lyricist. Drake's the entertainer, and Cole for me is more of the vibe, right? And so I get it, but that's how I view it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like, well, Kendrick, for me, like during this battle, he's really showing his intellect.
mhm.
He's really showing how he is like, I want to know, like, was he into puzzles as a child? Because
A
the
lot of these
breadcrumbs
that
that
have
he is leaving us. Whew.
a lot of the things that a really dope battle artists like Kendrick are is that they can leave you in anticipation because you're waiting for the big bomb to drop and they're never going to drop it. But they'll just keep you feasting on it because he could drop a new song every Friday. Kanye showed us that you can do that. Remember with his Good Fridays mixtapes? Those songs,
Mm-hmm.
for 8 weeks straight, he dropped a song every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it had different artists featured, Pusha, Jay-Z, big ass artists. Like you're like, damn, dude, like of course this is who he is. I feel like he's not super taken seriously because of the mental health stuff. But like I believe that a lot of this and how it's constructed, how production is constructed, how rhyme flow is constructed, these people aren't dumb. So when you're around smart people, you should be getting smarter, right? Like I said, iron sharpens iron. So
Mm-hmm.
all these people have been in the rooms together, right? Like when you take a Future and a Drake and they're making several hits, and
Bangers.
but you also don't realize like hooks are always stolen, lines are always borrowed and taken. Just go look back at the NWA story. It's like Eazy-E never wrote a rhyme. It was either Ren, Ice Cube, or DOC writing NWA's material. So it's like you look at it, and I have an affinity for a guy like Cube, realizing that his pen is pretty dope, especially in that era. But Eazy-E performed what Ice Cube was penning. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's always been ghostwriters and there's always been people behind the scenes. Like
And
Chris
Drake is,
Chris Brown, for instance, his song Transparency is by far, if it was ever to been released, I listened to it all the time because it's in my playlist when I'm at the gym, is so much better than Lil Wayne, 2 Chainz, and Usher's rendition of Transparency.
Mm.
And I feel like it doesn't need to have a hip hop artist on it. That's just my take. After hearing Chris Brown's for 8 months, and then these guys, and this is just an example, these guys dropped this song. I mean, it's an entirety of a hook, and Chris Brown definitely got paid for it because he's the one who did it. But there's a
Mm.
lot of things like Future and on the new one, We Don't Trust You Again or whatever, like the Feel No Way song. Like he's probably the one who did construct the hook when they were taping Views. That's
Mm.
not, we know that because they're very tight. They were tight during that time. They had 3 songs and came out with a mixtape together right after Views, or it might have been before Views. So they had a mixtape. So you got to know they at least did no less than 15 songs together, right? To create the mixtape, to create a song. So all Drake did was like, I'm gonna take his hook, I'm gonna put my melody on it, and I'm gonna sing the hook. But that's why when you're battling, you're doing little subliminal things to show the masses like, hey, that motherfucker didn't do that, I did it. Like that's why he did it. So there's little things, like you said, breadcrumbs that are
Yeah.
being for us to consume and understand, which I always find interesting because that's like the joy of finding shit out.
Yeah, like, but for me, that just shows like the level of Kendrick's brain and just how strategic he is. Like, even the song title from today, people like anything he drops at this point, everybody's just gonna be like, okay, there's like 4 different meanings
Mhm.
to what he just did.
Not the goal though. The goal is to make you feel some type of way.
But
One,
he's the first art. Okay. Let me hold on. Let me think before I say that. Is he the first artist that really makes us dive into his lyrics? He really makes people think and have to have outside and more background info to arrive at what he's trying to
being
say.
a big Jay Z fan and certain fans of Nas, Jay Z, Big L, I think he studied those guys to a T and how they can tell a story with leaving subliminals within the story. So like you're telling a story, but then there's little,
There's something else,
yeah, there's something else that can be involved in the storyline.
and that's
And
why he put it in there.
again, it's almost like if you were to put hip hop on an educational system aspect, like he's a doctorate in hip hop. Like he understands every aspect of the genre. And I
Right.
think he goes
And
too.
Drake is too. Yeah, I was gonna say Drake, he studied it as well, and he's been around every single great ever, like coming up. So even his family with the Graham name, like he's definitely connected to music, you
Hmm.
know. So come on. Like
Yeah.
he's
You don't have
talented.
to.
He's a talent. He is born, well, I guess he's Canadian, but he knows the whole American Black culture or whatever the topic everybody wants to bring up.
I don't like the cultural race baiting part of it because that can be left out. I mean, that's always been a thing though. I mean, look at you and I. Like you've probably heard things being more of a light skinned African American female, and you've heard those jokes, or I tease my boy all the time about it. But those are things that are kind of culturally accepted within our own culture. Like when House Party came out, it was light skinned brothers versus dark skinned brothers, like School Days,
Yeah,
things like that. We've been
yeah. No,
do the right
colorism is definitely a thing.
interracial. Like you got to remember, there's more interracial couples now than there ever were, right? Like there's more interracial babies walking around here that have different cultures or inheritances of bloodlines and DNA that are walking around the earth. Like Time Magazine put it out like what 4 or 5 years ago. What an actual kid in 2030 will probably look like. What
Yeah.
the standardized child.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's been kind of irritating is how they're having their beef, but their power and their influence to cause all these other conversations like this. And it's bringing up a lot of feelings and issues for different people. Um, and it's interesting. Like I'm finding there's a lot of people with a lot of different prejudices and races,
But
basically.
That's what it's meant and devised to do. It's meant to divide and conquer who is your conglomerate, who is your consumer. And ultimately, if both drop an album in the next 6 months or so, those albums will skyrocket because people are going to be interested in finding out, is there any more tea? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's just
a live
drama.
show for me, and I probably unpopular opinion is Kendrick on a live show, because I've seen all three. Kendrick's number one.
Let me see. Hold on. No, he
J.
is awesome. No, he is. He is.
J.
I
Cole's number
agree.
two from a live seeing him live perspective, and then Drake
Really.
number three for me. You
Yeah,
know,
Drake just runs around and has good energy.
yeah, but that's the same thing where I had. I think I told you this the first show was like when I first saw Wiz Khalifa at the Colonial. Like
Hmm.
I liked Wiz Khalifa, but I knew who Currency was more than I did Khalifa. But I listened to him. But then when he came out with Kush and Orange Juice and performed the majority of that mixtape at the Colonial, I was like, this dude's set for superstar. And this is when he was, unless you smoked a shit ton of weed or just knew hip hop culture, you didn't know who he was. And like watching him perform, I was like, oh, I have a newfound respect for him. I will listen to certain things now more or be more prone to download a project that he puts out because of what I saw and witnessed. Again, from a consumer standpoint, I don't want to just hear your audio. I want to see how you perform. But I have a different gauge and a different grading system on who I want to listen to, who I want to be around, who I want to see live and spend money for. I saw Nit before he died at Ace
Hmm.
when he performed
Oh, nice. At
Fresh
Ace of Spades, you said? Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of these
of
artists.
Retired Crips, and Charles and I went to that show, and the song that really for me on that show that reigns synonymous with when it comes on, it brings me right back to that show is all get right when he drops that beat, and I remember just how the sound quality was at Ace of Spades, what he was rapping about. I remember the drink I had in my hand. Like I remember going to Kanye's first show at the Warfield in San Francisco, where he brought out John Legend, where he brought out Dilated Peoples, where Consequence was there, where what was the dude that was on Drive Slow? All of the Farnsworth Bentley was there, and the last song he did for us in that show, and it was on MTV's Diary when he was first dropping, and it's probably one of the best hip hop shows I've ever attended.
Wow.
And he dro-
Really?
he dropped Last Call on the College Dropout album. That's the last song on the College Dropout. That song it's always in rotation for me. It's very nostalgic for me to hear. So we as consumers, we're always very nostalgic driven on how this particular artist has made us feel throughout whatever we're going through. That's what music and art do.
Yeah. It brings you back to that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It leaves an impression, a
Mhm.
mental impression in your mind. So yeah, that's why it's powerful. It's too powerful.
It's powerful in the sense that it's like, okay, none of these guys have ever really come out and said who to vote for, unless it's like a Jay-Z. But you also know Jay-Z is a big political player in this whole thing too. So I don't really go or gauge off of what he's doing politically because he's in a whole different tax bracket. He always raps about the fact that he's in that different tax bracket. I'm more prone to listening to, like I told you, Kendrick, and it's because I like the LA hip hop scene. I'm a big
Mm,
fan of what he's done coming up. Section 80, Overly Dedicated, the collaborations with Dom Kennedy, Nipsey, Pac Div, Casey Veggies, Vince Staples. I'm a fan of those guys' catalogs and how they spit and how they flow, and because it's
mhm,
more along the lines of what I kind of see on a day-to-day basis, and God rest his soul, like Doey Rock was one of the guys, like just
mhm.
here in Sacramento, that I felt like he was so in tune with the culture, and a lot of
He
people don't
was
like,
ours.
but people don't realize who's his mentor. Do you know his mentors? Do you know the people that he
Um,
came with?
uh, not the alcohol. No, I'm not gonna say who.
Raekwon the Chef, Wu-Tang,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
Johnson with him. So this dude is around some of the greatest lyricists and probably the biggest group ever. They're the Rolling Stones of hip hop.
Hmm.
That's
The
great.
juggernauts. He was dope. That's ooh. I haven't heard his name in a while.
It's just, it's kind of like what we've been talking about, like who you are surrounding yourself with, who is teaching you, who is helping
Matters.
cultivate what you're trying to spit or get out does matter. So Kendrick's around a lot of smart ass fucking dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Schoolboy Q and Isaiah Rashad and these guys are really smart. Their lyricism is dope. Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
the beats all the time, but their lyricism is dope and the shit matters. And so, like for me, I'm more predicated on that than I am anything else. So it's like it is a battle of ego in a sense. Like I am the best lyricist, but I'm the bigger star. Okay, great. Well, I just want to see who's gonna battle you lyricistly wise. Like I want to hear lyricism. And when it
Yeah,
comes to
it's
lyricism,
preference. It all comes down to preference,
it
and
is.
that's so. I don't even know if there's gonna be like a stated winner unless Drake just totally flops on his response.
Well, I think
Um,
the shitty thing was, and I think I told you that when it came out, was from a strategic standpoint, using AI with his flow, but using two idols of Kendrick's was like fuck below the belt. Like it was like, whoa.
but I
Like
didn't even, yeah, and he gave a lot of Kendrick his concepts on Euphoria from that song. If you, because I went back to listen to it today, and I mean, basically Kendrick used everything Drake said that Tupac said,
mhm.
and he brought it back in Euphoria.
But that's
And
a classic battle rapper. That's a classic guy knowing that whatever you said, I'm gonna retaliate and I'm gonna
right,
respond to.
it's
And
that line for line type of thing.
as
Yeah,
far
no,
as
that's true.
I think Drake is that guy. Drake is more what the gimmick was. He's the gimmicky guy that catches your attention. And it's been said. Kendrick said it in the now two songs now. Like
Yeah, and but it was creative. It was super creative, I think. But I didn't realize so many people were gonna take it like as
you're gonna
offensive.
take it wrong because one's dead and one has an affiliation more with one of the artists than he does the other. So Snoop Dogg is what the West Coast is. So
Yeah,
that,
so they got
that
super offended.
yeah, that
Yeah,
level of disrespect is like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, dude, the gloves are off. This fool's not playing. Like, I looked at it from an artistry standpoint of like, you know damn well Snoop doesn't flow like this, but it's Drake's flow with his cadence and his breath control and his work, but it's Snoop Dogg's voice. It's like, damn, that shit's ooh, you know,
yeah,
it's telling you like, hey bro, what you gonna do? Like it's like, damn, like, it's just super disrespectful and how you take it and what kind of uh mood are you in to listen to it, right? Like a lot of that does matter, right? Like if you're gonna take it from a disrespectful standpoint on some I'm gonna kill you shit or disrespectful standpoint of like, dude, like really that's kind of bad
yeah,
form.
yeah.
But
But it,
people don't I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
mhm,
there's no rules of engagement when there's rules of in this thing. There are
yeah,
rules to actual war. I don't know if you ever read them, but there are actual rules of engagement when we are at
mhm.
war,
True, true.
right? And so when those rules of engagement, this is why we go to wars because usually something has been an infraction, right,
Hmm.
in the rules of engagement
A
of going.
violation. Hmm.
Yeah. And so when that violation happens, old school shit, you just go take out the head. Like, oh, you didn't want to fight fair, so I'm just gonna go take your fucking queen or your king and off with their head kind of deal. And I think that hip hop doesn't have a rule of engagement. I think once it's engaged, it all bets are off, all gloves are off, all clothes are everything is free game.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see that. But a lot of people didn't understand the AI technology, and that's kind of speaks more to their their narrative of how Drake is like commercial, or Drake is very, I don't know. Well,
Drake,
I don't know what they're trying to say. He's
Drake
white,
is the
or
poster
he,
child of this generation.
yeah, but he's tapped into technology. He has friends, I believe, in
Kendrick,
all places.
Kendrick could have been mentioned in a top 10 list in 1994 through 2004. I don't necessarily think Drake would have survived in that era because we weren't ready for his expertise and talents. So again, it's like a lot of older generational people think about it, go back and look, are siding with Kendrick on the way he's handled the battle. and a lot of new age people that love Drake and are super fans of Drake are siding with Drake, regardless of what
Yeah. Because they
has.
hate Kendrick's beats.
Mhm.
Like they're really like basing this on like, oh, Kendrick didn't come with anything because his beats are trash. Like he's not making good songs. Like they're not replayable. So they're really it's weird how people are judging all this or what the criteria is. And I think it does come down to generations. It's a
Yeah,
so there's not
and
gonna be a winner.
artistry.
It's not gonna be a winner. Nobody's
No,
gonna be
it's
able
gonna
to
be
agree.
no, it's gonna
Oh,
be based on personal preference. Go ahead.
yeah, but I did hear, I was like, this needs to be pay-per-view. This would be, if they want to make some money, if we're talking money, they should definitely have both of them do freestyle. Like a one, like on a
I would love
versus
to see that because I
in the
believe,
same room.
yeah, well, not necessarily in the same room because I don't know how that beef would handle. I don't think there's any love loss anymore between the two. So I just think that that would be kind of they would have to be more of a,
Dangerous.
but it would be, it could be. I mean, just because of who their henchmen are and the things that we know in their backgrounds. But let's even talk about that. Like that got me through the pandemic from a
Yeah,
entertainment standpoint. We had no entertainment.
yeah,
Shut down, TV shut down, writing is shut down, and to have these virtual verses and then have live verses once we got out of the pandemic, like the biggest verses guy that I felt like is still top 10 for me is Jadakiss. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
that
he was
was
great.
three verses and murked all three opponents. Like I ain't fucking
Mhm.
with Jadakiss if I'm a hip hop guy because his catalog's thick. He can go off the cusp. He can come at you however he wants to come at you. And I think that's more along the lines of who Kendrick is. He's an artist. He's literally taken the art form of hip hop, of rap, of being a lyricist to a higher extent. And
Mhm.
I think that in a lot of ways, Drake's the smart, good looking jock that gets good grades, but you don't necessarily see his intelligence until after he's done something.
Right.
And
But I'm like, but can they, Kendrick, he really can freestyle?
hmm,
Like, do we
Kendrick,
know this?
Kendrick, yeah,
Yeah.
he did that on the cipher. Yeah,
What, like that BET cipher?
yeah, he can freestyle. I've several 106 freestyles. Who
Because
is it?
people have different definitions of freestyle these days.
Well, I mean, the
Like
term
just
freestyle for us is like hearing
off the head, off the top.
Jay Z at Power 101, with Angie Martinez. That's what you're more based off of. Who are the gentlemen? Oh, the LA Leakers, right? They leak or have a lot of features of guys like Simba, K. Dot,
That could actually freestyle.
those are freestyles. Most of these things are written.
Yeah, they could be written and
Let's
just
not.
memorized.
I think more so in today's culture, things are more memorized than they are going off the cusp. You can always tell who goes off the cusp. Like when Common freestyles, like I can tell this is just a freestyle because he scans the room and he's
And
going. I've been
picking,
to
yeah.
several of his shows. When he freestyle, I can totally tell it's a free. That's an art. Freestyling is an art, and it's
Yeah.
a very difficult art because you have to
Whew.
on the fly figure what is the topic or the subject or the predicated line that you want to say, or you're going to talk about this person's blue shirt, you're going to talk about this person's black sweatshirt, and how do you mix and match those things together? I think there are certain artists that are really good at different things. Like I said, like Simba always, like I'm not a big Baby fan or the Baby, right? I'm
Oh,
not a
he's
big
good.
fan of his stuff, but when he gets on these things and he spits over somebody else's beat, it's like, oh shit, okay,
Fire. Fire.
right?
Yeah.
But that's it's written, but he knows that he can't make money rapping this way. So like, why don't I get this baby in your albums? Like we don't. We get a lot of club bangers out of his
Mhm.
album. So again, like I said, it's I always elude a lot of artists to the fabulous moniker, the Big Sean moniker. It's like I want to hear Wale freestyle, and Wale can fucking freestyle. Big
Mhm.
Sean can freestyle. Like his shit is dope, but not necessarily the song. Not he's not putting me on the dance floor a lot of times. Like I like
Yeah.
more their B-side shit than I do their album stuff. So
Yeah.
again, it's a preference.
And that's what they were saying about Kendrick too, that he doesn't make good songs. But I'm like, damn, had some good songs on there that I love.
You got to listen to his catalog in a different way. You have to listen from start to finish without just skipping shit because everything has a meaning. Like all three or four of the albums that he has let's put it this way: all the albums that he has put out, especially these major level ones, are from different media prints. Like, what is it? Like, Good Kid, Mad City was a paper, or like magazine type deal. Like, so there's different things that he's doing. Like you said, breadcrumbs that he's leaving with all of his projects. They
Yeah, he's an architect.
on this last one, right? This whole last one was about being in therapy and getting right with his mental and the stardom that had come with all of these first couple of albums, and with bangers on them, with songs that we played throughout the summer, and we're still banging those songs, right? So it's the artistry that goes along with it. And I don't necessarily think in a way that Drake's albums aren't like that. They're not flowed that way. They're not created that way. They're created more of, here's your
Have
six
fun.
bangers, two through eight are the six bangers. You got a couple of things pieced in mind and on this. And where J. Cole and Kendrick are more strategic about their subject, their predicated lines of, this is how I have to structure this album because this is how I want it to be heard. Period.
Yeah.
Nas is the same way. So a lot of these people take this from Nas because even though I don't like certain songs, like Illmatic is still like one of the top 3 albums of all time that you have to figure out how to strategically manage each song that you're doing. And he did whoever aligned that project is a Pulitzer Prize winning, like almost Nobel Peace Prize of how hip hop can be constructed. You know, who took that shit and ran with it? Jay-Z, when he did Reasonable Doubt. So you go back and listen to the 2 albums kind of synonymously. Listen to Illmatic first, then listen to Reasonable Doubt second. And you're like, fuck, that fool took what Nas was doing here, which is dope as fuck, and he kind of enhanced it with his own flair. And this is dope as fuck. And now every album from the 90s after those 2 albums dropped, even including Biggie's, I will say Biggie's first one, right? It's like, dude, you have to follow suit. Oh, and not to mention Wu-Tang in 97 put out a double album. So does Pac in 96. That we all sat in line and waited for.
Oof, loved it. That was a good time in music.
Let me give you a little extra credit bonus. Let's talk about the Corrupts album, the West Coast and the East Coast album. Pac had East Coast dudes that were, a lot of people at the time thought they were in the beef in 96. And he had Redman, Method Man, Corrupt, and himself on a song. Like, what? Like, we're entrenched in the heat of East Coast, West Coast, and you got 2 of the biggest East Coast artists who aren't necessarily involved with it, but they are a part of it because they are higher
East
up.
Coast, yeah.
And he's got a dope ass song with it that was produced by Devontae. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I got my mind made. And
yeah, that was a banger.
Banger. Like that shit is in every playlist I have that is hip hop related, right? And it's because of the nostalgic aspect of, how did you pull this off in the heightened part of, you're about to die almost. You know what I mean? We didn't know he was gonna die at the time when we were living through it, but like he died like because of this beef and because of record industry beef. And
Yeah. And that's where I was when this beef first started. I was like, oh no, I don't want the guys at the top level to get into an argument and fight and it turns into something bigger and then they die. Like what the, oh my gosh, if Kendrick or Drake were killed.
This is where I go back to the first part. What I was saying is that this shit is all, we're getting played.
Yeah, but
I love
that's why
the sport. I can talk about it like I do sports, but being played on a bigger scale of being puppeteered.
Yeah, but now I'm more into the battle, like because it is just kind of staying, on the records.
These dudes know that there's nothing good that comes from their deaths, right? And so like, can give them credit. They're a little smarter than the average bear, right? Like they're a lot smarter than previous generations. Like I said,
but their entourage could instigate a lot of things, and these internet people could instigate stuff.
Yeah, but I think most of these entourages, I'm not going to say they're yes people because I don't know them personally, but
right.
I do know that they're not trying to fuck up their money.
Or even like the academics in the Chi Senate, like they're very controversial and all about like beef and like negativity. Like that's what I've noticed.
Sells though.
Huh?
What sells?
Right, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous. But I think these groups of men and individuals that are involved in this are very strategic and chess players, not bangers. Like they are chess players.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, hopefully it just stays intellectual, but I think it's gonna improve
So let me
the
ask you
state
this:
of hip hop.
who's winning for you? I kind of think you think Kendrick, no?
Oh, yeah, I'm about even. But if Drake doesn't come back with like a great answer, then it's over. Like Drake has no hope. Like he can't compete with Kendrick. Kendrick is just too brilliant. He's a brilliant man.
My sentiments exactly.
You
The
know,
and that's you.
like Drake has to tap in and show that he's cultured. He has to show that he understands like what people are saying about him.
But the thing is that I can't sit here and kind of agree with that because I kind of disagree. Drake is the culture as well. He's just a different side of it.
Yeah, but for people like Kendrick and Kendrick's fan base, he's
Of
not
course,
what people
he's not
want.
what the culture. He's
He's
not
not.
playing the culture being. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
people don't want that. Yeah, they don't like his materialism. They don't like his surface, being a surface type of guy and not involving himself in real issues. So
I still love, um, the song with Jay-Z and Drake, and I sent that to you the other day, and Jay-Z basically broke it all down to him of how
oh
this,
yeah. That
right?
yeah, because he's on top. Drake is on top, been on top. Like there's no
Mhm.
doubting that. Like I have two playlists with like over 3 hours of songs from Drake. Like he has that many great songs and collaborations. I don't
But see,
have
like,
a Kendrick
here's a great
playlist.
example of the ego in hip hop. I'll leave you with this. Just here's an example. Jeezy on his Snow tape, the
Mm,
mixtape that just came out before his, double CD and his divorce and everything. And I've always felt like artistry and artists in general always put out great stuff when we're in the middle of a lot of bad stuff, right? Like Usher reigned synonymous with his loving of Chili and then his losing of Chili. Those are his two best albums. So he's
mm.
in love in his heightened point, and then breakup point. Probably one of the best R&B albums ever, right? In Confessions 1 and 2, and
Mm.
so artistry happens in the midst of turmoil, whether we're going through it globally, whether we're going through it as a country, and we're really hurting as a country right now anyway. So there's a big divide in our country with race, religion, with money, with economics, and all these types of things. So I think what Drake represents is kind of what Jay-Z has always talked about, because a lot of people hate Jay-Z because he's very flamboyant with his materialism. And I'm
Mm.
flossing. Like I'm one of my favorite lines is I drive around during the day with my lights on. That's flexing on you. It's like, damn, like, and at the time, like, remember, cars didn't have this automatic daylight shit. Like, unless you
Right.
had a 600 Benz or a Maybach or one of these newer cars at the time. So that line is very, one, uncovering of what his wealth is and what we don't have as consumers. What we're trying to strive to be is, I want a car that fucking has the lights on all damn time.
Exactly.
To the top down, the lights are on. Hell yeah, I'm fronting on you. Like, whoa, well, hold on. Let's really dissect that. Let's go back in that time frame of '01. Cars weren't made that way. We didn't have
Mm.
lights on all the time running. So it's like there's all these little innuendos
Flex.
that these dudes flex
Yeah. Uh-oh.
on. That's the ego. I love it, to be honest with you, but I think Kendrick's
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm definitely a spiritual person, but I love a good flex. I love I love that kind of music. Like it you relate to it. And I think that's why I do like because sometimes you don't want to hear about the ills of the world every second of the day. You want to
no.
just enjoy life and listen to somebody you could like completely relate with as far as like this grind or this ambition or this party life or relationships. And I think that's where Drake, he definitely
Kendrick
resonates.
and Cole are everyday blue collar motherfuckers, and Drake is that rich ass neighbor.
Living every life from here to Dubai. Or
I
where does
hope.
he like? He likes Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one to drop though. I'll tell the masses that.
I'm telling you, we're gonna have to like do a pod just on the song. If it's this amazing, because I really hope it is. It has to be, or it's over. This song has to be amazing, or it's over. Like that's just where we're at this moment. Because
I don't think
Euphoria,
he has enough on Kendrick to make a song as I
but
think Taylor
maybe he
was.
well, hold on. Maybe he doesn't make it about Kendrick. Maybe he makes it about some of these other conversations that are going on that Kendrick has tried to bring
I think
up.
what Taylor Made gave us is because he gave shots on push-ups and Taylor Made to everybody who was coming at him as well. So
Right,
I
right,
just
true.
think like Drake has more of weight on his shoulders with what's going on because of who's coming at him. If it becomes just a Kendrick Drake thing, I know Drake is not going to be able to sustain that. So it's
Ooh, you
like
don't think so? Okay, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if he doesn't come back with something equally, I don't know. I don't believe he has the same intellect as Kendrick, but he has to come back with something
mhm.
that is on
It's
that
not
level
to
to
take
make us say, "Wow." He has to wow us. Kendrick's been wowing us.
mhm. Well, even just with the title, right? That's a Drake title. Like Drake has all
Right.
songs from different parts of the country and the world, and there's times of those songs, and those are usually the song. And I know why he did it. Like from a surface level thing for people who don't know, Kendrick did that because that's usually the B-side song that you will resonate with.
Mhm.
Right? That's the first track that came off on All the Dogs. Was Charlotte,
Oh
and
yeah, 8 p.m. in Charlotte. Yeah.
yeah, but when has Drake ever dropped one of those types of songs where he's just flowing, no hook, just going, spazzing out on the beat? When has he ever dropped that and I felt like Drake was trying to do that with this album, but also knowing that he's got crossover appeal, so he has to appeal to whoever is buying his shit, which is a lot of people. It's suburban housewives are buying Drake shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people. He's crossed
Like
over.
Target at 10:30 like myself, but people that I see in Target at 10:30 in the morning buy Drake before they buy Kendrick.
Yeah. Yeah, but he definitely has a fan base.
Fuck
Kendrick
yeah.
has to have a fan base, right? Because
All of
he's
them
going
do.
on world tours. He's going on world tours. He's getting streams. Like he's critically acclaimed. He's has Grammys, but he's just a true artist. He's just a true
He's
artist.
also done a lot of things like Jay-Z has, and people don't
Whew.
talk about that, is he's put a lot of different genres of hip hop on drill, UK, reggae,
Beats.
reggaeton, and however kind of corny he does come off, he has put a lot of motherfuckers on. A
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Everyone. Like I have a whole playlist of all the people he's put on,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing. Like he's for the he to me he's for the culture. I don't know. He's for music culture, and I would say he's for Black culture. But Black culture isn't a monolith, and that I think that's the conversation I hate as well. That's going on. Like people are trying to say if you're Black, you have to be like this street person, or are they saying like he's trying to?
That's our own doing with the crabs in a barrel mentality. That's the ignorant part of hip hop. That's the bang bang shoot 'em up part of hip hop, is that piece of it. So
Yeah, because not all Black people are from the streets. Like it's
no,
just it's
I've
we're working class people.
the
We're
last
working
few
class.
weeks I've heard, oh, you're so articulate, so and intelligent. I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to be? Like, am I not supposed to be articulate and intelligent? But
Yes, that's
it
what
is
I think people don't think.
into a 43-year-old black male who is a business owner, has these things, and is this person and can be this well spoken and have these types of things or these types of luxuries or materials, but he's also grounded in God and grounded and rooted in his family as young men, the kids he coaches, the community based sense of things. It's like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm trying to do best I can every day, but
You like a
it,
unicorn.
these are those black, no, I shouldn't say black-handed compliments, but they're backhanded
No, they
compliments
are. Yeah.
that are hard to
So
take.
well, you articulate well. Yeah.
So what the fuck
No,
am I supposed to be? Is the N word supposed to drop out of my mouth every single fucking time I
that's what
talk?
they think. That's what they think about us, and that's crazy. So yeah,
No, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. We'll have to
Well,
definitely there'll be another continuation to this. We'll see if we have a winner.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe.
I think he'll drop. I don't know. I think he'll drop Monday, Tuesday, maybe this weekend.
Nah, he ain't gonna respond like that. He busy.
50 Cent said he has a bomb. He said that like just not too long ago.
Who that Drake has
Drake.
about?
That's what he said. That's what 50 Cent put out there in the world. So we'll see.
Mm.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for listening.
Wrong, by the way. 50 Cent
Huh?
is 50 Cent is not usually wrong.
Oh, really?
He's not usually wrong. No.
I thought he was just talking mess, maybe, but he said it. It's
Oh, talk shit. I mean, that's what we fell in love with was the bully. And he capitalized on that bullyingism for a long time.
he
Capitalized.
did and did the same thing as Ja Rule.
Mhm. Put that fool out of business. Come on now. You guys have a good
All right. Talk to you later.